Hello, this is Scott Regan with Apigee, and we are here at the I Love APIs 2014 conference in San Francisco. It's a beautiful day, and we are delighted to have Matt Makai from Twilio, developer evangelist from Twilio, here joining us at the conference. Matt, you were just on the developer experience panel, and Twilio is a great company, leader in voice and messaging APIs, and I've been doing developer stuff here at Apigee for 7 years, and we've always looked to the way that you guys do developer experience as just a model for what works well and what's a great example to point to. We love the red jackets, of course. We're very jealous about the red jackets. You guys stand out. But tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do at Twilio.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Matt Makai. I'm a developer evangelist with Twilio, and developer evangelism, the way that we look at it, and my responsibilities are really three things. One of them is to contribute to open source and build those open source projects around Twilio to gain adoption of the platform. The second thing is to travel and speak at tech conferences and work at hackathons and just help developers in person, one-on-one or in small groups, work with the API and build on the API. And the third thing is to build a better tech community in the communities that we serve. So the communities I primarily serve are Washington, D.C. and Boston, but I certainly go to tech meetups all over the country and all over the world, which is a great experience.
Wow, sounds fantastic job. At this conference, as you know, we have a lot of folks who are putting together API developer teams, or they're putting together developer outreach strategies. A lot of them come from companies who are somewhat new to the developer space and are getting digital ready. So I imagine that you're asked this question a lot when you're here, but sure. When they ask, how do I get started with a developer program, what works well and what doesn't work well, what are some of the things that you would advise?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is to focus on that core web API and make sure that not only is that being built appropriately by looking at other examples of what web APIs are being held up as the current standard of the best web APIs. And that bucket can change from year to year of what the best web APIs are. So holding up those as examples of what you hope to ultimately achieve doesn't mean your first iteration is necessarily going to achieve that, but just to look at that. And then dog fooding it, using it internally. Yeah. So one of the problems that a lot of companies come across is they build these APIs, and the developers who've built the APIs don't actually use the APIs themselves. Yeah. And other people throughout the company don't use the APIs. So when they expose them to external audiences, they're surprised when things are not exactly what they expected. Yeah. You have to the first thing is to have your developers who are building the web APIs use them themselves. The second thing is to make sure you internally dog food them. And then third, expose them to a group of hopefully a supportive audience, maybe in some sort of beta test, or at least where you can get immediate feedback from developers. Yeah, that's an incredibly important point. I just want to echo that, which is sometimes just having a well-designed API is the best thing you can do for your API marketing. You can get a lot of other things not perfect or wrong, but if you have a really well-designed API that reads like a book, that is a great foundation to build from. It's certainly a foundation. There's other things. After that comes making sure your documentation, and one of the things about documentation is people think of it as just this large bucket of, oh, well, we put up a few pages, but it's really several different pieces. Number one is the reference documentation. So if I'm Googling for something about the API, then I stumble on that page and it solves my problem. So that's reference documentation. The second is walkthroughs. If you've never touched that API before, what is the thing you start with? How do you set up your environment? How do you hit your endpoint? How do you accomplish some goal? And then the third thing is just blog posts that show you, it could be blog post format, something like that, but it's something that shows you what's a really cool use case. So maybe it's, in our case with SMS, adding two-factor authentication to your application. If you're getting a request to do that, you can add that to your application in a few hours. So developers who are having a problem with two-factor authentication, they look at that blog post and it's something that is just, okay, I can do it. Or one other thing that was really great was building your own lockatron with an Arduino, and you send a text message, it unlocks the lock, and you can enter your house or whatever. Cool. So projects like that. I mean, Twilio is just like an example that we always point to when it comes to just developer experience. Really, from the sign up to the getting started to the immediate gratification. It's you guys have really put together a very nice ramp into getting educated and proficient on your technology. So please check that out if
especially for a lot of our audience that's looking for a model. But since I have you in this chair, I want all your secrets, man, which is you guys just have a huge presence in the developer community market. You're just everywhere. The brand is everywhere. And I know that your team, you guys have a reasonably sized team. So for you as a developer evangelist, how do you get leverage of your time and all your ability to be in one place at one time to get the biggest bang for the buck? How do you get the most out of it?
A huge part of it is making sure. I'm sure we try to be everywhere, but we try to be in places that are, first off, the top events, the events that really are ones that are looked at by the community as run well. They're not just for profit. They're really there for the developer experience.
Yeah.
And we want to be associated with those events, and we won't actually be associated with events that are just about lining somebody's pockets or something like that.
Yeah, great.
So it's about evaluating and being at the right events. And then when you're there, it's also about the experience that developers have with you, often one-on-one or in small groups. So they may be frustrated with something that they don't know about the API, or they run into an edge case, and you're able to help them through that. Or if it actually is, and this comes up more often than not, there may be something that is an error on our side, it's a problem on our side. We give that feedback immediately to our developers who are working on the core platform and make sure that we solve that problem for them. And that helps us to smooth out all those edge cases that are out there.
Okay, let me ask you a question that our customers ask us all the time, which is, how can I find out what the best developer events are? I mean, what would you say? Yeah,
so the best developer events are the ones that are generally run by developers who are well respected in the community. So you can start with the developer meetups that are in your own community.
Absolutely.
So for example, I live in Washington, DC. DC Python, DC Ruby user group meetup. I co-organize DC continuous delivery. Those are run by developers, for developers, and they have explicit policies that say, look, this is not a recruiting event. This is not a sales pitch. We want to talk about real technology here. We want to talk about the underlying, whatever programming language, ecosystem, how to solve problems. Those are the events that you want to go to, that developers are attracted to, because it's actually about the problem as opposed to just a sales pitch or something like that. So that's how you start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going to a large number of smaller, super high quality events can be a lot more impactful than what you might think of. You need to go to a large event like a South by Southwest or some huge circus where you really can't stand out from
we found that even South by Southwest has changed a lot. So you have to reevaluate these events every single year.
Absolutely.
And an event that may 5 years ago have been really focused on developers or maybe small tech startups has turned into a huge event that is really just about the big companies. And that's fine if that's what the event wants to be, but it's not about the developer anymore. And that's what we look for is it about the developer? At the end of the day, they want to take something away from that event and they're learning from it. That's where we want to be.
Great. Okay, so what I'm hearing is I want to get into developer outreach. I got to have a really well-designed product. I've got to think about the high-quality events where my target customer is going to be. You guys already have a great experience once you attract somebody to Twilio. I mean, what else do you find really works well in this area for developer strategies or programs?
Yeah, sure. Well, I touched on it earlier, but getting people excited about some project, and often we do that with blog posts, but we'll do it with what I tend to do when I give technical talks is I'll do a blog post with the technical talk so people can hopefully take away and be inspired by the technical talk. So I aspire to, don't always accomplish, but people are excited by it. Then they can go to the blog post and they can see, oh, okay, here's how I actually do it. It's a detailed tutorial, and then it's code, open source code that they can take and modify for their own purposes. So that is a part of the experience, and it's just walking them through, here's something that is a new concept, and then by the end of the talk, the blog post, or whatever write-up, and the open source code, that developer feels like they are comfortable with whatever that subject is.
Fantastic. Wow, well, that's great. I mean, I think, this is, again, you guys just have a fantastic program, and it's really a model for a great tone too in the way that you speak to your audience. So it's awesome to have you at our conference, and really appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
And all the tips as well. Thanks. Thank you.